Hello, hello. We are up. Hello. We're gonna chat up. Hello, hello, hello. Okay. The two of you fell silent as you tried to puzzle out a logical answer. Eventually, you decided to return the game. Return to the game. Yay! Oh, you won. Love, you won. Were you even trying? Not really. You smiled at you and immediately said, "Don't you smile at me." You somehow weren't surprised by that, despite Cove being the one who suggested the game in the first place. He started a yarn, hand coming up to cover his mouth quickly, transitioning into a laugh. You understood why yawning, just as he said, was a feeling of disinterest. However, my kind of memory is here. Disinterested was kind of funny, a coincidence. You shook your head at him. Cub just grinned and flopped onto his back, leaving his marker on the floor beside him. You followed Cove instead. Cove's lead and lay down on your back, your hands resting on your stomach. You better not try some shit. The two of you stayed like that for a long time. It wasn't much else to say, and neither of you felt up to another game after that. Time passed, you even dozed off a bit, despite the hot weather and uncomfortable hardwood floor underneath you. Finally, the blazing sun began to set. To your relief, the air cooled down a bit as a result. You pulled yourself off the floor, as did Cove, with some minor complaints. You both stretched your arms, groaning and yawning into your hand. You glanced at your window briefly, taking the soft red, pinks, and purple of the late afternoon sky. Somehow you had made it through the scorching hot day in one piece. Cove turned towards you, rubbing the back of his neck. Thanks for letting me stay over. Thanks for keeping me company. Cove also looked out the window, noting that the sun's descent. I should probably go home now. Bye. Bye. He simply walked out of the room and made his way downstairs while you followed closely behind. You needed to get out of your room anyway so you can grab something to drink. Cove made it to the front door and glanced over his shoulder at you. He waved. You waved back. Watching as he opened the front door and left. You let a small breath. You felt good. Hi, Bubby, what you doing? You felt pretty good in the moment. Looking back, it could have been a lot worse. Should it be family or road trip? I wonder if we have to buy all of these separately, like $4 each, or we get two for $4. Family. Okay, save. La 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 la. My cat's just licking around her laps and I'm just making noise. Okay. The warmth sun on your skin from its place in the sky, you can close your eyes, enjoying the mix of the heat and the pleasant breeze that drifted past you. You and Lee had spread out a blanket on top of one of the hills behind you. Your house and had been relaxing there for a while. Usually, Lee had come over earlier that day while a range of activity had been discussed, from home to heading down to a beach. A picnic on the hill had been your choice that you both settled on. A small spread was laid out in front of you, some bottled water, some soft drinks, as well as chipped and sliced fruits. You sat up and reached for a snack, listening to Lee talk away about the musical. Oh, the cousin musical that she had gotten to see a few days ago. It was unbelievable. There was singing, dancing, and crazy stunts, and it was all done live, right in front of my face. Maybe one day we can go together, but I gotta see more shows like that. You smiled at Lee's enthusiasm, knowing how much she enjoyed singing and performing, and she was good at it too. You had gotten the chance to hear her sing a couple of tunes. You knew she put a lot of effort in it. It was nice the two of you could share that interest. I wonder if we could put on our own show. Think how fun it'll be. We could perform for our parents and ask our friends and some other people to come and watch too. It'll totally work. Yes, let's do it. You had actually thought about doing something like that before, but never had a chance to. Leah clapped in excitement, bounced on the ball of her feet, beyond the happy that you were on board with her idea. I'm gonna sing. Do you want to, or maybe something else? I'll sing too. Cool, we'll perform an incredible duet. Is there anything else coming to your head? One more thing. I like the song. Oh, I hope for something dramatic. No, how about fun? Fun is better. No, dramatically fun is more like it. What about both? Yeah, Destiny. Lee's face lit up to the idea, and she gave you a broad smile. That sounds perfect. Is there anything else coming to your head? No, that's all. The two of you ran back to your house and grabbed the supplies you needed, dodging your mom's amused questions before headed back to the blanket to get started. You made sure that you had a notebook and pen in case some inspiration hit. Lee and you discussed the plans in detail, settling on the song, then practicing parts for the show. Oh, we didn't write it, or didn't get to choose what to write. The afternoon passed quickly, the sun dropping lower and lower in the sky after having throughout worked out how the show was going to go. You decided to take a break. Oh, we should invite Cole to watch us practice the show. He could tell us if it's bad before we put on the real thing. Okay, so I'll be okay. It might have been nice for Cole to be there, but you felt weird when you think about him watching the show. We could ask him to watch us another time. Maybe. too bad Derek isn't in the neighborhood today. I like him. Yeah, he's a good person. I knew you'd think so. So exactly how much do you like him? Or maybe there's someone else that I haven't heard of yet? Lee wriggled her eyebrows at you suggestively. You knew exactly what she was implying. Lee huffed in disappointment, pursuing her lips together. Darn, but you promised to tell me if that changes, right? I'll do it for you. I'll tell. It's a deal then. Speaking of crushes, there's one boy I think is pretty cute. You leaned back on your elbows, listening as Lee talked about her crush in all great details. It was nice to have her tell you about a little gossip for once, rather always trying to get it out of you. Finally, you both decided to pack up everything and head back home for the evening. Lee talked excitedly about the show as you did, and you thought back on what you had already accomplished for it. Okay, you could definitely do with a little more practice, but what you had so far was a solid foundation of the performance. Upon walking through the front door, you were met by your moms and Elizabeth hovering around each other in the living room. Tension hung thick in the air as three of you turned to you and Lee, frowning slightly. You had interrupted something exactly. You weren't sure. Oh, the puberty talk. What's going on? Your moms looked at each other, wondering which one of them were going to speak. Eventually, Mom cleared her throat and spoke. We're just having a talk with your sister. The room fell quiet again, but no one quite knowing what to say. You felt incredibly awkward, but the silence didn't last long. You don't have to stop because those two are here. There's no reason to try keeping it a secret. Elizabeth was mad, her arms folded defensively over her chest, but your mom nodded in agreement with her. Elizabeth was asking about her parents, her biological ones. The world spun around you at the news. You can understand why is this happening now. You glanced at Lee. She shuffled her feet uncomfortably. So she didn't know if she should be here or not anymore. You didn't know either. Your mom's always been open and honest about the fact neither of them had given birth to you or your sister, but the details hadn't been fully explained before. It made sense that Elizabeth didn't know a lot about her biological parents and wanted to know more. You just hadn't ever thought you accidentally stepped into it. Elizabeth looked at your parents expectantly. She wasn't going to let the unintentional interruption derail things. We don't want to keep that information, either of you. It is your right to know your past, but we did want to wait until you asked us to hear yourself. Asked us to hear yourself, okay? Well, it's happening now, so your mom shared a bad backstory, shared a nervous glance, and Ma took in a quick breath before speaking again. I adopted you from the Philippines when you were just a baby. Elizabeth dropped her arms, eyebrows shooting upwards in surprise. Wait, I wasn't born here? No, you weren't. You could clearly see that your sister was appalled by this information. You struggled even more what to do or how to react. Am I going to have to pass some test to even be a citizen? No, you are adopted into the country. We took care of things. You're already a citizen. You have nothing to worry about. I followed all the laws when it came to bringing a child into the U.S. Nothing could be held against you. Elizabeth sighed, placated with the information, but still far from happy. Who were my parents as people? Why did they put me up for adoption in the first place? Ma softly put her hands over Elizabeth's shoulder, trying to provide some support before she gave an answer. Oh no, I'm so sorry, sweetie. Your parents were reported to have died. They didn't go into details on specifically how, but you're an orphan. I wish we had better news for you, Elizabeth. Elizabeth was torn in between her emotions. Her eyes filled up with tears as she threw her hands into the air, settling on enraged. Great, so I can never meet them, even if I wanted to. Not that I could have anyway, since they lived in another part of the world when they were still alive. Elizabeth turned her back onto you and your moms and stormed off, sprinting up the stairs into her room before anyone could stop her. I have to go and talk to her. Ma immediately started to follow her, but Mom gently held her by the arm and shook her head. We should give her a little space to process it all. Mom's head hung low, but she stopped walking. With Elizabeth gone now, the two of you seemed to remember you and Lee were still standing awkwardly off to the side. I'm sorry you had to see that. It's not how I expected would happen when the time came. But since the topic of the day, destiny, is there anything you'd like to ask? You deserve to know after all. Lee patted your back, gave you a supportive look. I want to know. Both of your parents nodded in sync to your reply, ready to talk. I can leave if you want when I have things private. Sure. She might be uncomfortable. So, thanks. Lee smiled in understanding before heading down the hall, going to wait in another room until it was over. You turned your face to your parents again, preparing yourself for what they were about to tell you. Ma was first to speak. Her voice, bad story for us, too. Her voice quivering with emotion. You were adopted as a baby, but 2 years after Elizabeth, we used a different organization at the time, and you were adopted within the U.S. I'm sorry to tell you, Destiny, your parents also had passed away. No other family members took you in, if there was any. That's why we wanted to wait until you asked. We didn't want to suddenly just drop that in your lap. We wanted you to be prepared. We're sorry, Destiny. It's not your fault. You didn't kill him, right? I want to go with that. You were trying to lighten the mood, but your mom didn't seem any less grim. Thank you for listening to us, Destiny. If there's anything else you wanted to know, all you do All you have to do is ask, and we'll do our best to answer any question. How are you feeling right now? Are you going to be okay? Um, how, hmm. La, 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 la. So, in between these two, I'm gonna do this because it seems more likely for people to know. You spoke in the most convincing tones you could. Your mom gave you a sad smile, and you weren't so sure they believed you. No one seemed to have any words after that. You went to your room and you, I'll stay here with the moms. You took a step closer to your mom, glancing at them nervously. You wanted to show them how somehow that it wasn't their fault. The last thing you wanted for them to feel sad about it. That. Moms, come here, sweetie. Ma stepped forward and wrapped you in a hug while Mom rubbed her back and assured everything would be okay. We promise that we'll always love you, Destiny. We'll do whatever we can to help you through this. That's right, because we're a family. Damn, I thought we were going to perform and stuff. I love you too. It was a nice moment. You enjoyed it as long as you could. Both pulled back eventually and grinned at you. You knew that you had each other and you'd always would. Hey, a voice made you all look up, and you saw your sister standing at the bottom of the stairs. She walked up closer. You didn't know what to do or what she was planning on saying. Would you mind going? I want to talk to Destiny. You can come back. It's not going to be forever or anything. I wanted to talk to you too. Oh, then we're on the same page. She made a little move along, gestured to her hand, and it was settled. Let's serve. Okay. You waited until the two of you were alone before fixing her with an impressive look. Elizabeth folded her arms, looking you over. Did Mom tell you about your parents too? My birth parents also died. Elizabeth broke contact after that. Sorry. Why did you want to talk to me? Elizabeth raised an eyebrow at the question as though the answer should be obvious. I was worried about you. I was the only one that brought it up. But I made you deal with whatever was left when I was gone. She sighed, glanced upwards for a moment before settling on you once more. Yeah, to prevent crying, you look up. Like, nope, you're going back in. Just go back in. I wanted to ask you what happened with that everyone breathing down our necks. Thank you for thinking of me. She stuck her nose up a little at that, but her smile was soft. All of this It upsets me. She slipped back down into a scowl. I'm sorry, Destiny. It's a pretty depressing topic. Yeah. You have to be born in the U.S. to become president. Oh, she wanted to be president? What? You never heard of that dream of hers before she noticed your bafflement and continued. I get I was never going to be president, but it just feels weird having stuff taken away and not getting a chance at it. I don't like having to know that when I was born I was going to have a completely different life. It's so different, I can't even think about what it looked like in my head. I could have spoken another language, lived away from everything I've ever seen here, had someone else as my sibling, and then my parents died, and I was adopted. Their life I got become a totally new thing forever. I can't go back to what it was, even if I wanted to. The heaviness that settled between you and the person who became your sister. You knew it was confusing feeling to have lived one way for as long as you can remember, but not having it be the way it was originally yours. Elizabeth watched you seriously. She was still trying to make sense of this to you and herself. I don't know why today was the day. Nothing came up to make me ask the question. It was just something I had in my head for a while. When it was just me and Mom in the living room, I just kind of said it finally, and there you go. She shifted from one foot to the other, relaxing her stance just a bit. She also spoke more gently, learning about them and what happened. It doesn't change how I feel about our family, Destiny. She smirked, fixing you with a sharp eye. I'm already figured a long time ago that Mom weren't our biological parents. It wasn't news. You kept listening. Nothing about this family I was first born would have made me decide that this wasn't my family anymore. If you had hoped you'd be free from my big sisterly status, don't think you're so lucky. She bumped her shoulder against yours playfully, and her lips tilted at the corner. You'll always be my little sister. You hugged her! It took a few seconds, but she gave you a little squeeze in return. Look at her. Jacqueline, she seemed pleased how the conversation had gone. In the end, we should have let them come back. They're probably wondering what's going on. It's been a long day for everyone. You gave her a nod. You can all come back now. Elizabeth called up the stairs as soon as you heard footsteps as your mom returned. They came back down, poking her head out behind your mom. How did the talk go? Mark gave the two of you a small smile, though you couldn't tell she was still worried. I hope there's no disownment happening down here. Hey, I hope you're right. They came towards you with a soft smile plastered on her face. Are you okay, Elizabeth? Elizabeth rolled her eyes and huffed in a breath. You knew she wasn't used to showing her vulnerable side. I'm doing fine. They nodded, though you could tell she didn't quite believe her. Ah, baby. My Jackson Max came over. And now, since we're all here, how about we do something together as a family? That sounds like an excellent idea. We should have some fun before the night's over. I love the sound of that. I love the sound of that. Why not? Pizza! Who's got a suggestion? It has to be something we can do here in the house with everyone in the same room. You suddenly remember the show you and Lee had been working on earlier? Maybe we can do a show. A show? This is the first time we're hearing of this. I'm intrigued. It would be amazing if you put it on for us to watch. Oh yeah, I need to see what you cooked up. You smiled at Lee, who returned the gesture while bouncing on her heels in excitement. Take some taste. We got everything together. Your mom collected the chairs from around the dining room and set them down in the row in the living room where enough space for the show. While they did that, you and Lee quickly gathered the supplies you needed to rehash the plan last time. You went through the song you had written one last time. While the two of you returned to the living room, everyone was sitting, chatting amongst themselves while they waited. The group quieted down when you and Lee stood in front of them. On your makeshift stage, Lee was buzzing quietly with excitement beside you. You're pumped! You're pumped! The time you and Lee had put into practicing was worth it. You were ready to go. Okay, welcome to our show. We only came up with it today, but we promise it will be good. Thank you for being here tonight. Your mom gave you a thumbs up in encouragement, ready for the performance. Then you nodded at Lee that you were ready to begin. Lee took a deep breath, waiting for a few beats it took to get into the song and started singing. Your part of the song joined in. Just a few moments later, you smiled at each other and sang together. It made you proud to have the lyrics you had written sung like this. When your performance was over, Lee took your hand in hers and the two of you bowed deeply together. Everyone gave you a round of applause and cheered for an encore where when you straightened yourself up, you were happy to see even Elizabeth was clapping for you. Bravo, bravo! You were so talented. Your family rose from their seats, came over to congratulate you more directly. You were beaming from ear to ear. Your parents gushed about how great everything was and thanked you for sharing it with them. Elizabeth was complimentary on her own way. She did describe the show as cute, which you knew she meant kind of kidding. You laughed it off. However, you were happy that everyone had a nice time. In that moment, you couldn't have been more pleased to be a part of this family you had. Yay! Say, serve. Road trip. Even though you were awake, the sun had barely peeked its head above the horizon, and the sky was still dark, though lightning by the minute. And usually you would be up so early, especially during summer vacation, but today was different. Today, instead of a lazy day you were used to, everything around you was a flurry of activity of both you and your family, and Coves prepared for what lays ahead. Because parked in the street just outside your house was a massive RV camper, so big you couldn't even see Cove's house behind it. Is it a double one? His parents had rented the RV for a few days to take him on a short road trip to see Redwood National Park. You glanced at Cove, who was standing nearby, taking in the scene from in front of him. The prospect of the trip had been a mixed bag for him, but it was only 3 days, so it seemed like dealing with it could be the best he could. Your family joined them, probably adding that to the little emotion. You weren't sure how exactly it happened, but you knew your parents and Cove spoke to each other often, and somewhere along the plans were made after Cliff offered to share the space. The parents all thought that was a fantastic idea. You had already gotten a good look inside while helping to load everything in. You had to admit that while it was just a really big car, fitting that many people inside was going to be a snug. Maybe the music, kiddo. Mom bustled past with a cooler in one hand and a large bottle of water under the other. She was upbeat and ready early in the morning. Ma, however, seemed to be on the other side of the wavelength. She followed behind her wife, dragging her feet on every step. I'm going to need a whole jug of coffee once we hit the road. It was too early. You yawned and rubbed your eyes, still sleepy from the early morning wake-up call. The air outside was still damp from dew, and that helped you a bit more alert. And then at the end of the train came your sister. She had a bone to pick. Before the trip officially started, her rattling off critiques added some level to normalcy to everything new going on. I don't get why I can't sleep in bed tonight. Destiny is the youngest, and I never sleep in that long. We are trying to make things fair for everyone. If you want to play the older card, you should be offering to take the loss both nights. It's important for a big sibling to make sacrifices for the young ones. Elizabeth huffed, not happy with the answer in the slightest, folded her arms, leaning back against the side of the RV. Their plans had been nailed down prior. The sleeping arrangement included. Elizabeth still held on to her objective with them. There was a main area in the RV with a couch, loft, some floor space, and at the end of the car was a room with a large bed. Your moms were sharing the bed. Kyle was on the couch, and father and son intended to sleep on the floor. The adults determined you and Elizabeth would switch between a small loft above the driver's seat and the shared bed with the moms. You knew you had to deal with the arrangement just like everyone else did. Alright, Eli, does everyone have everything they need? We're heading out in 5 minutes. Now's the time to double check. You don't want to forget something important. At the word, Elizabeth yelped and dashed back into the house, her bed head bouncing behind her as she went. Ma came over and gave you a smile, settling her hands on her hip. How about you, Destiny? Do you have all your clothes packed, toiletries, deodorant, floss, anything you can think of? Oh, you had to run in to get some. Sprinting up the stairs to the bathroom, you kept your toothbrush from beside the sink before heading back down. You were reminded to grab it. After you left it out to use this morning, it would have been embarrassing if you couldn't brush your teeth for a few days. Your mom was still there waiting with a knowing expression as she walked out again. Got everything out? Yeah. With a few minutes to spare leaving, you mentally went over what you had packed for the trip. Clothes, pillow, blanket, usual day-to gear for most people. You also had more personal things as your camera. It was just a little pocket camera you had gotten from your mom, so you couldn't miss the opportunity to take some new snaps. Pencil and paper. You had to be prepared in case you saw something to sketch at the park, or if you had to write anything down, or you needed to pass time just doodling. I said if we do this, it would be like a kid being like, I want it. With so much time going on spent driving in the car, you wanted to make sure you'd be able to have some music to put on. Without fail, it always made you feel more comfortable whenever you went somewhere new. It was like taking a piece of you home away with you. A couple things to read. You had picked one of your favorites and a new one you never tried before. You knew you had plenty of time for them on both such long drive. A bag of makeup. You kind of dreaded the idea of trying to apply it nicely while in a cramped RV, but it was something you wanted to keep on hand. And that was everything. Hey, let me take that for you, Hey, let me take that for you, Destiny. I'll stow it in the RV. There's a few spots on left. It'll fit. You let Kyra take your bag and gave her a grateful smile. With nothing left to do, you watched the others get ready for the trip. Kyra and Cliff seemed to have most of the energy above everyone else. They were finishing packing the suitcases away while your mom had gone to lock up the house. They high-fived whenever another one got crammed into the storage compartment in the vehicle. Even though your parents were more low-key than the Coves, you could tell they were both excited for the trip. It had been a while since your family had been away anywhere together. Elizabeth skipped towards the RV with the bag slung over her shoulder. You were surprised to see she was more optimistic about the whole ordeal now. Usually she wasn't the one to exit the confines of her room unless it was for TV food or to leave her family members behind to be with friends. You would have thought the whole 3 days packed up in an RV with 6 others wouldn't be too much for her, but it was just a nice surprise. You suppose any vacation was better than no vacation in her mind. Cove had been pretty quiet so far, and more than anything seemed to be more overwhelmed by the situation. You've been looking up the park online and couldn't wait to explore everything it had to offer. Soon the miscellaneous remaining tasks had been all wrapped up. Everyone piled in the RV. It was officially time for the trip to start. Serve. And it did. Cliff took the first shift driving, he cautiously navigated the massive car out of the narrow neighborhood street. It was a touch and go for the first part of the journey. Your mom and Kyra were all huddled to at the front, trying to get a view of how much space they had on each side. There was a sense of relief when the first long leg of the trip was a hit. The RV would only need to go down one stretch of the highway for miles. The mom group cleared out of the driver's area, leaving Kovstad to it, taking more comfortable seats around the main cabin. It felt like you could finally relax too. Time slipped as the morning faded away. Before you realized it, the engine of the RV came to a stop, but it only halted for a few moments as Cliff climbed out of the driver's seat and Mom took over. Mom was sitting in the shotgun, giving the mom a quick tutorial on the controls as it was her first time driving anything this large. Cliff groaned as he headed towards the rest of you, stretching his arm above his head, loosening up his muscle. "We're making you prankish." "Yeah, maybe you should take a nap in the bath for a while. That was a long haul you just did, and I know you're less sleep than usual." Cliff waved a hand, that trademark grin of his slipping into place. "I don't need sleep. I got a few miles in the old tank." He flexed an arm, showing off his muscle to drive the point about how resilient he was home. Kyra rolled her eyes at amusement. "Dad, everyone has to sleep." Cove shook his head at the tough guy act. The Cliff simply chuckled and ruffled his son's hair. "Are you going to be driving again anytime soon, Mr. Holden? I want to know so I can prepare. Did anyone pack some rope? I might need it. There's no seatbelts up here." Elizabeth called down from where she was lounging in the loft above the driving compartment. She was laying on her back, her hair falling all over the sides, swinging around the RV as it started up again and took off down the road. A bag of potato chips was balanced on Elizabeth's stomach. She tossed a couple in her mouth as Cliff held a hand to his chest, pretending to be offended by that remark. Kyra laughed lightheartedly. "Lucky for all of us, we have enough adults to cover the shift today. He won't be driving again until tomorrow." "And it's time that you too." The rest of the group laughed while Cliff pouted. You gave him an apologetic shrug. Mom then shouted back in her seat to join the conversation, a playful smile tilting her lip. "What I'm more worried about is this old monster getting us there and back before falling apart again. It looks like it's been built in the early 90s and must be older than some occupants. That's just the aesthetic of the decor. It's not that old, I think. Did you ask what year the model was before you rented it?" Kyra wrinkled her nose at the thought. "Yes, I did. I just can't remember what the answer was." Cliff chuckled at her while the rest of you let out a collective sigh. "Oh, it's going to break and we're going to have to be stranded." The RV lurched a little as it picked up in speed. You held on to the ladder to the left to keep your balance. You felt something raise on top of your head. before a weight settled on to your pink hair. When you tilted your chin up carefully to look, you heard the rustling of bag chip. You realized Elizabeth had rested the end of it on your head. She gestured to the opening ceiling, gently offering to share a snack. You took a handful. Reaching up, you scooped some chips, and after the weight of the packet left your scalp, you happily munched away as the conversation continued on and you got closer and closer to your destination. The day flew by. The group of you chatted, playing games, passing the time together before finally arriving at the park, gathering up for the night. Mom was closing the windows while everyone got ready for bed, saying goodnight to the others as she made her way to the back. You all had dinner tonight while still driving. Some hours after you had arrived to your destination and found a spot to park for the rest of your stay. Giving a look across the front of the RV, you almost noticed everyone there was dozing off where they were, with the coves having completely fallen asleep, curled up in the passenger seat. You must have done so while Carl was driving the last leg. They had decided not to disturb him. Carl herself was the only one up, who was still awake, flipping through a magazine next to a portable light from her spot on the couch. It seemed Mr. Holden needed to sleep despite his claims. You followed your mom into the back room. You closed the door behind you, crawling into the bed between them. It was a queen-size bed, so there was enough space for 3 of you together without too much squishing. Get a good night rest, Destiny. We got a big day ahead of us tomorrow. I'm looking forward to the brush walk in the morning. It's been a long time since I've been out in nature like this. There will be plenty for us to see. You stayed awake for a little while longer while your mom whispered about the park, forest in general. The sound of their voice in the background, eventually you nodded off to sleep. The next morning you were up bright and early, preparing for the day ahead. You had an okay sleep. It was nothing compared to your bed at home, but at least you didn't have to sleep on the floor, so you couldn't complain too much. Mom whined a bit about the firmness of the mattress, but Mom only had encouraged her to enjoy the trip while she could. While looking for a spot to get ready, you had some trouble finding a space of your own, as the others were doing the same. Cove was perched on top of the counter, brushing his hair, tucking up his leg every time someone wanted to move past. The parents were checking and double checking and triple checking that you had everything, to the point where you had stopped listening to them altogether. You knew you wouldn't be returning to the RV at all that day, but by the look of the backpacks that were packed, I'm refreshing, making sure we don't do that. Okay. Looking at the backpacks that were packed up and ready to go, you doubted. Yeah. We're banning you. I don't know why it's not. But yeah. You wouldn't be returned to the RV that day, but by the looks of the backpacks that were packed up and ready to go, you doubted anything was missing from them. It didn't take much longer until you all exited the RV and the bus all headed into the Redwood Nation Park. Wow. Cub had his head tilted up towards the canopy of the trees, his eyes wide as he took the massive trunk on the either side of you. You knew redwood trees were considered the tallest trees on earth, but you weren't prepared for exactly how huge they would be in person. Smile, you two! Smile, you two! You spun just in time to Kara snapping a picture of you and Cub together before she pointed her camera at Cliff, trying to get a shot despite his weak protest that she should just enjoy the moment. Your parents were walking behind the group a little, Mom telling Ma some information that she had read about the park and weren't sure. Ma listened happily as she looked around, taking in the sight every now and then, asking a question and making a joke about something Mom had said. You know you shouldn't enjoy the moment, you should also take pictures to remember it. You smiled at them, thinking your mom must have read a lot of pamphlets to know so much about the park. Maybe you should come and work here as a tour guide if you know so much about the place. Elizabeth teased, earning a squeeze on the nose from your mom. She seemed to be enjoying herself, but thought that might just be because she was amused by everyone else's reaction. You're all in the redwood. Surrounding you, either side, enormous trees shot up into the sky, the sunlight peeking through the canopy, speckling the path in front of you. The sheer size of the redwood made you feel like a tiny ant bustling around along the forest. The adults had decided on some casual nature walk rather than any serious hiking. You strolled along at your own pace, taking in the scenery. And I think I'm gonna go. Thank you guys for watching. And join my Discord so you can be noticed, like alerted when I'm live. Thank you guys for watching. I'm gonna go. And see ya. Bye.